You've styled many natural haired clients of yours, and also within TV. For example, you styled several of the Kingdom Choir members who were the choir for Meghan Markle's royal wedding, for a commercial, for an advert. Tell me more about that professional experience of styling natural hair for this choir.
It's fun. It's fun, but it's very challenging because, as you know, natural hair comes in so many diverse textures. So, if I'm honest with you, I feel like I kind of fell into the natural hair. Okay. You know, as a stylist, it's not something I was always known for my haircuts. I've always been good with hair, full stop. But it was actually very interesting because I've noticed, one thing I have noticed is there's always a lot of emphasis on makeup for anything, whether, you know, no matter what your ethnicity is or anything like that, that always seems to be kind of taken care of. In that sense, on that day, makeup was very much sorted. There was lighting for makeup, there was a space for makeup. I was there from the morning, but there wasn't a space for me. I had to create my space, and actually my space was very dark. So what I achieved with extremely poor lighting, you know, I also travel with like a kind of a light that I put on my head.
Head torch, amazing.
So if I am shaved, yeah. So it's little things like that I had to borrow like almost like a spotlight stand from them and try and angle that just so I could see what I was doing. So if I was to say there was a negative, it was that I feel that there is almost a slight dismissive attitude to how much effort is required to achieve our hairstyles and for us to look the way that we do on camera. For me, as I said, because I'm somebody, I could be screaming inside, you won't know. I could be thinking, do you know what I mean? But you will not know. I'll be calm and I'll get through it. So the day was definitely challenging, but very few things surprised me. So I've learned over the years to prepare myself, make sure I've got everything that I could possibly need to make the job as easy as possible for me. But it did help that I was able to get a brief out to all of the ladies that I was going to do that day, to say, please just prep your hair, just do whatever you can do that makes that process a bit smooth for me. And that's what we did. So it was good. It was good.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the experience. I mean, yes, there is always a few things that you have to sort of figure out on the day for each department. But yeah, it's surprising to me. It's shocking to hear that you didn't have a space that was dedicated to you when they knew that you were coming. And, you know, it's good and it's fantastic that you are a professional at all times and you don't sort of make a fuss. I think you and I can both relate to that, the idea of, you know, when you get there, you are professional, you do the job as best you can, you make it work. But there, I agree, it does sound like there was a missed consideration or question as to what you might need and how they could facilitate that.
I think me going natural myself, I went natural in 2011, and that brought a whole new clientele for me. Or it changed my client base, basically. For a lot of them, they saw my hair and it's like, well, can my hair do that? And I was like, of course. You know, obviously it's very short now, but at the time I grew it long, I grew it for how many years. So yeah, a lot of people were drawn from that. So I did a lot of big chops, and that's kind of how that client base came. So then transferring those skills onto a set, it's fine. I think that what a lot of advice that needs to be given to maybe a lot of clients, if you do have natural hair, even for me, who is very skilled as a stylist and fully understands natural hair, there's a part that the client has to pay, which is preparation. You definitely need to know that if you're going on a set of film or TV or anything like that, do the best that you can do to have prepared your strands. And that's what they did on that day. So if I'm honest with you, the process ran very smoothly. I enjoyed it. It was like one after the other. I can't even tell you how many. It wasn't just ladies. I did, shape ups for the guys, and, you know, whether it's shaping up their parting or anything like that. So I could do both, which was really, really good. So for me, it was fine. I just worked solidly for how many hours.
Now, I would like to talk more on some of your other experiences in professional settings within the TV industry. I don't expect you to name any names. That's not what this is about. And I think it distracts from the real heart of this conversation,
Yeah.
what we're trying to discuss with the hair campaign especially, and this whole series really, is that, but I would like to get a sense of your general feeling when it comes to styling natural hair on TV or theatre productions that you have worked on. So what was some of those experiences like?
I'd say I think, like I said, I think for me, because I approach everything with a particular attitude, I can't say anything has ever been terrible. I'll say one experience stands out to mind, and I remember I was contacted by the organisation for a particular photo shoot and stuff like that, and they asked me what I needed, my fees, everything else like that. I expressed that to them, and they were extremely dismissive of my importance to that particular client, to the point that they basically came back to me and said, you know, we'll let you know whether we'll need you, and we'll give you a, you know, we'll come back to you and we'll let you know, basically. And I had to be very direct and say, well, actually, you've got till this particular date to let me know what you plan to do. And it was, they put me in quite an awkward situation, because I knew in my heart that this particular client has specifically requested me, because her hair wasn't something that anybody could do just on set for her or anything like that. Like, she knew that she had found someone that had a specific skill to achieve this look for her. And yeah, I basically gave them an ultimatum, as opposed to, you know, it wasn't a nice feeling, and it made me, I didn't want to go back to her as the client, because that's unprofessional as well. So in hindsight, it all came together, and on the day, once again, there was a real dismissiveness as to how much goes into getting the look that was required for her, basically. And just in the way that we were treated that day, I can't even describe it. Yeah, it was just very clear that they knew anybody couldn't do the job, but they didn't really care to cater for those who could.
And if you don't mind me asking, what was the style that this client needed?
Just curly afro hair. Just curly afro hair. Would have required cutting. It just curly. It was just a particular. I'm known for like my tapered style, so it's a cut. And just she'd actually tried, I think, maybe 2 or 3 stylists prior to that for this particular look. And prior to this, they had gone on, you know, and just gone and hired someone without even questioning it, you know, speaking to her about it. And once she had found me, she made it very clear that, you know, she would require me for these events. And it wasn't until later when we was able to talk. So as I said, I wanted to still remain professional, and I didn't think it was right to go back to her and express the problems that I'd had behind the scenes, not knowing that she was having other problems for herself. So yeah, it was when I spoke to her, she kind of made it very clear, you are the only stylist that I will have with me on these jobs. So if you find yourself in this situation again, you need to tell me. And it was just interesting how, like I said, dismissive they were, and whether it was just dismissive because they didn't think it was worth that price, or whether it was dismissive because they didn't think, I don't know, I can't put my finger on what it was, but there was very little value placed on her particular needs, and how important it was to her to be able to do her job effectively. Because if that's not right, you know, it's still hard to then translate everything else that you require for me on that camera for that day when you've not done the behind the scenes correctly. So yeah, it was interesting. But as I say, it was, I count all these things as part of the journey and part of the story, and the character building. So I know how to approach those situations should I face them ever again.
Absolutely. And so how much time on average do you find you need to be able to style either the more simpler, let's start with those, the more simpler natural hairstyles on set, on say a TV or theatre job?
I work extremely fast. I could do something in as little as half an hour.
Okay.
But the truth is, the time and the preparation for the person whose hair I'm styling, it's a very different situation when you have a natural client who doesn't care for her strands in the first place. Natural hair, unfortunately, for some hair types, you can create magic in that moment with very little. But for a lot of natural hair types, if you've not put in the groundwork at home, whether it be your regular, you know, wash and condition, you're moisturizing, regularly take care of those strands, you're expecting a lot from even the most skilled stylist on the other end to make it look amazing, because it's dependent on your hair type. That's what I'd say. Some hair types are a bit more challenging to create that magic when the hair is not in the best state. So if it is with clients who are actually my clients and whose hair's maintained by me, or they regularly take care of their hair, I can work very, very fast. If the hair isn't very well maintained in general, the actual person doesn't take care of their hair, it can be a lot more challenging. So it just depends on the type of style that's required. And unfortunately, with natural hair, it does depend on the length. That does play a part. So it's super short, but they require, something, that's more sophisticated or business looking. I love afro, so I would still say, for me personally, I still feel a style is down to the character of the person. I don't think there is any hairstyle that isn't right for any particular environment, but that's something I get from a lot of my clients, that I can't have this for the job I do, or anything like that. It's something I've always struggled with, because I'm like, you wear the hair doesn't wear you. You define how you want to present yourself to this world. But I know that there are certain styles that might be specifically required, and that can be more challenging dependent on the length and the quality of the hair. When I say quality, I'm not talking about the so-called good hair, because I believe all hair is good. I'm talking about how well the hair has been maintained prior. So, yeah.
But there is this idea, isn't there, around what good hair, easy hair is, and do you find often clients and productions are put pressure at all on say artists, performers to stay with a good hair type, good hair afro hairstyle over perhaps something considered to be less good hair for the job?
100%, because they don't, what they class as not good hair is what's more challenging to them. It's actually not harder. It's actually not harder when you understand the hair, but when you don't have a lack of understanding, that's what's harder, and not everybody across the board could potentially manage that hair type. So yeah, that I would definitely say that certain people may be chosen for the job for that particular reason, whether it be your length or your texture. That is possible, because it's going to be harder to accommodate this particular client or artist to do the role. So yeah, I do believe that can happen.
Well, you've been doing this, you've been styling hair for TV and the industry for some time. So in your experience, how often do you get to hair departments and find that the skill set is where it needs to be for afro hair? What has been your experience with production when it comes to that, and natural hair and things like that?
It's not great. I think it's getting better, but most people I have worked with who are in film or TV, and a lot of them do their hair themselves. There isn't an accommodation for them in TV and film. There is, I know that unless you're fine if you wear a wig or anything like that, there's somebody that can more than likely maintain that. In fact, a lot of them do choose to just wear wigs, because at least then whatever you need to do to it, it's not my own hair being affected, but it's also easier for the client as well, should they find themselves in a compromising situation where the stylist can't do their hair. So I would say there's very little to accommodate for them. And once again, the industry is quite dismissive over the importance of having the right products for them, having the right, things for them. Like I said, I've done fashion shows, and it's interesting to see the black models that just flock over to you quickly, just because they see that your products are what they see familiarity instantly on my my station, whether it be from the products or the combs, and it's like, never been to this person before, but I trust her just because of what she's got here. I know that's what I would use. From product knowledge to the right tools, a lot of the time they don't have what you need, unfortunately.